One of the issues that I want to address today is the decision of the Constitutional Court in reference to the Integrity Chamber legislation. This has been in the waiting for quite some time. It was postponed, I think, on 2 occasions, and finally we have had a ruling. Those of you who have followed the debate in Parliament would know that it would come as no surprise, at least to my person. When I was a member of Parliament, I vehemently opposed the intentions of the Integrity Chamber in the fashion in which it was being pursued, and we voted against the draft legislation at the time. One of the main reasons for us was the premise of the Integrity Chamber legislation at the time, which kind of criminalizes the entire society. One is guilty by association, one is guilty through relationships. If one knew the minister and had a relationship with the minister, then you're assumed to be guilty until you can prove that you're innocent. And we believe that under the law, every citizen should be innocent until proven guilty, but the Integrity Chamber gave far-reaching powers to a group of people who had the authority to basically enter your home, enter your office, and conduct searches and question someone basically for any and all reasons. And we have opposed that, and we are happy with the outcome of the decision by the Constitutional Court. The question now is, where do we go from here? Is it so that, okay, there is no integrity chamber or there is no integrity law because it was struck down by the Constitutional Court? No, not exactly or not altogether. When the reports, the integrity investigations were conducted, the government at the time had said that they are committed to carrying out the different recommendations in the report. And one of the recommendations in the reports was an integrity chamber. What we have seen that the Dutch government actually did is lift out and focus on the integrity chamber and made that a priority. They even threatened at the time that if the government of St. Martin doesn't do something about it quickly, that they would place, give an instruction to St. Martin or de facto place St. Martin under higher supervision as far as that is concerned. Well, our Legal Affairs Department has been looking at the verdict and is busy preparing an advice on the way forward. On another note that has to do with it is, when we put it in a broader perspective, some of the recommendations also entail that legislation needed to be either put in place or existing legislation adopted to prevent integrity breaches or to deal with integrity breaches. Through the assistance of the central bank, several experienced lawyers have been retained and are working within the different ministries and within the Legal Affairs Department to help put these amendments or these legislations in place. I'm expecting a report from the head of the Legal Affairs Department soon as to how far they have reached with that. So for now, immediately, there is no decision on we're going left, right, or center as far as the outcome of the Constitutional Court's verdict is. As I said, though, however, that the Legal Affairs Department is busy drafting an advice on the way forward. The issue of GBE, I'm sure some of you may want an update want information on. When we last spoke, I said that I would get in touch with the interim manager at GBE, but I'm also aware that you have received an invitation for a press briefing at 11:30 today. So rather than having the Prime Minister say anything about the developments at GB, I think it's only but appropriate that the information comes from the management of GBE directly. Also, the progress I spoke about at the new government building. Last week we addressed the issue of the progress that was being made and the deadline that was set. I visited this week, I visited the premises and taken stock of some of the work that is progressing. Photos can be, well, you can take photos. I was going to say I can send you, but you may not like those that I send you. You might want your own. But if you have driven by or paid attention, you would notice two things that is taking place on the outside. The wall, construction on the wall has already started. Presently, the wall on the southern side of the building, which is the side of the pond with the mangroves, the wall there has started. The intention is that we have a wall on the left and the right of the building and at the front of the building, as was shown on the photos several weeks ago, the artist rendition actually. And the contractor has indicated that it would take like 13 weeks from start to finish. They have started over a week ago, and one can say, well, it would take them another 12 weeks. You know, you're looking at 3 months. It does not mean that moving in cannot take place because the wall is not completed. We have given notice for the Ministry of General Affairs, the buildings that Ministry of General Affairs is occupying outside of the present administration building, such as Personnel Affairs on Back Street, Facilities Management. Those departments, we have given notice to the landlords that as of August 31st, we will terminate the lease agreement that we have with them so that they would be moving out by the 31st. The Council of Ministers will be the first to move to the new building, and the Ministry of General Affairs would be the first ministry as well to have the rest of its offices that are move to the building. Work is being done on the outside. As I said, the wall is under construction, but also the parking, they have started, the contractor have started paving the parking, putting asphalt onto the ground. It would be good, probably if we organize a tour with the media so that you can take a first-hand look at what is taking place. One would figure, seeing a building there for the past 8 years, one would figure it was something ready to move in. No, there's a lot of work still that had to be done. The inside changes, the partitions that we had to make changes to and put up, they are practically finished. The cabling that had to be done over, that too is a work almost completed. Air conditioners are working, elevators are working, light and electricity and water are connected. Tiles have been ordered for the entrance on the outside and the entrance on the inside, plus tiles have been ordered for the walkway from the road to the building for those who are walking from the street to the building. And all of this will be completed hopefully by the end of August. So it is a work in progress. We are happy with the progress that is being made, and we look forward to, in the weeks ahead, to welcome you at the opening.
You made some statements on how happy the government is, especially you with regarding to the outcome of the court decision with the Integrity Chamber. Would you like to comment on the latest development in the Netherlands with regards to the former police chief of the National Police who came here and made some very insulting remarks about corruption on St. Martin, and today he's under investigation by an integrity committee of the police of the Netherlands for misappropriated spending of funds and possible fraud?
Maybe I don't. I usually do not comment on developments that are taking place in any other part of the kingdom in terms of condemning people even before they have gotten their day in court. I think, though, it kind of raises eyebrows when a former chief of police who came here and made some very strong remarks about the government and by extension, the people of St. Martin, creating the impression to some extent that it's one cesspool of corruption, and then that very same person is under investigation. Being under investigation does not mean that one is guilty, so I will not go further into it other than to say it was kind of shocking to me to see that one who has been accusing everybody else of corruption today is being accused of fraud and misappropriation of funds. On the other hand, one can say, well, at least the system there is working, that if you have a rotten apple in between, that they're not afraid to take that rotten apple out and deal with him or her. So interesting would now be the outcome of the case. So until such time, I shall not, go into whether he is innocent or not.
Prime Minister Marlin, I know this is not your portfolio, but this government is led by your person. There's so much information over the past weeks regarding garbage collection. There were even, I don't even know if to call them allegation, or even what kind of statements made by the Minister of Romy, who seemed missing in action when he has information as where it pertains to some sort of sabotage where the garbage collection is concerned, not only in parcel 5 and 6, but the entire island. Today we got a press release from a member of parliament who is even condemning the situation and even linking it to certain medical threats on the island.
Medical what?
Medical threats, like for example, chikungunya, Zika,
Okay.
all of this, because of the garbage that are thrown all over the place. He's linking the two together, which I know the Minister of Health also is not here. So as leader of government, does the situation with garbage collection concerns you?
Definitely. I don't know which member of parliament and what the content of their release is, but if one would say that the garbage is linked to Zika, the number of cases on St. Martin as one landmass, one island. If my memory serves me well, the majority of cases and all of the first cases were diagnosed on the French side. So it would be kind of ironic to say that the garbage on the Dutch side caused people to be infected by Zika on the French side. But that's it. There is not a day that go by without I having some sort of discussion on the garbage collection. I have spoken extensively myself with one of the contractors in terms of my concerns. The social activist in St. Peter's, Koto, can tell you that on several occasions during the evening, when I leave the office, sometime 10, 10:30, 11 o'clock in the night, I would make a drive through to check on the area, and I met him during the day, during the evening. I don't know if any reports were made on it, but there was a stockpile of vehicles in the St. Peter's area in front of the old John Lamany School, the Prince Alexander School, where they were stockpiling car wrecks and other things related to a cleanup. Now, what I have noticed, and I'm speaking now as a resident of South Reward for the past 30 years. In the 30 years that I have lived at the same location, I have never seen, let's say, pallets nowhere near the garbage bins. Nowhere near. And it was interesting to see the amount of pallets, the garbage bin that is placed just across from my house. I drove out of the yard one day, and there were about 6 to 8 pallets dumped outside at the bin. I drove a little further down, going towards St. Peter's by Bruni's recording studio. Just you go down the hill below George Pantelflet's residence, and by that bin, there were about a dozen pallets dumped there. There are no businesses in that area. And the question would be, who has been dumping pallets there? To my surprise, I drove a little further out, and in the area of Cahill, there too, I saw pallets placed outside of a garbage bin.
Okay.
And I'm not saying this now because you asked the question, but I've spoken to the contractor, and I said, I hope you guys have taken note of this thing. And I said, probably I'm talking to the wrong person, but I should be addressing this with the Public Works Department, who is charged with the inspection of collection, to ensure that people are not deliberately creating the impression that garbage is being created. So the impression that garbage is piling up. And definitely pallets in the area where I've seen them outside of a commercial area where there are no businesses, nowhere near to the streets that I'm talking about. Then the other issue that you have is nobody would take 10 pallets and put them even in a big SUV because they won't fit. And even if they fit, why would somebody load 10 pallets in an SUV or in the back of a pickup and then drive to a garbage bin where household garbage is supposed to collect it to deposit them there? I personally, and I think I spoke about this in a previous press briefing, in the area of Milton Peters College, rather by St. Dominic School, saw 2 gentlemen offloading a small pickup into a garbage bin. And I stopped and I told him, I said, why are you doing this? This is not a garbage bin to dispose of garbage in such a fashion. If you already have them on a pickup, take them to the dump. And one of them apologized, and he said, Prime Minister, we are going to take it to the dump, but because the truck was overloaded, the pickup was overloaded, we didn't want the garbage to fall on the road as we were driving. I said, then you should have covered it wherever it is you were leaving with it. So, yes, I'm not covering for any garbage contractor. I can tell you that I am confident that there are people out there deliberately trying to create the impression that either the garbage is not collected properly or to create the impression that the place is inundated with garbage no matter what. You would empty the bins, let's say at 10 o'clock, and by 12 o'clock, they're overflowing with garbage. What I told the contractor as well, I said, you got to bear in mind that we are in the hurricane season. People may have a tendency, whether they are more aware this year or not, but people have a tendency whenever the hurricane season is coming to start pruning trees. It's an advice that government gives them as well. Make sure, clean your yard, get rid of unnecessary debris. So it is also possible that people are adhering to this and therefore there is more garbage. But pallets, for instance, in the areas that I spoke about, is clearly to me an indication that somebody, whether one or more people, organized or not, are deliberately behind a scheme to create a wrong impression.
Thank you, Prime Minister. I'm sorry for the little distraction. I just got a horrible phone call, which I'll get into after. My next question goes into what happened yesterday in South Ward with a vehicle belonging to a member of Parliament, which some kind of how is kept silent. The blown up of a vehicle in South Ward belonging to a member of Parliament from the National Alliance faction. Yes, we are just a couple of days away from Postulation Day, but what do you take this? How do you take this when people start blowing up cars belonging to politicians? How do you take this?
Maybe I got home late last night, and my wife asked me if I've gotten a call from one of the MPs, members of the National Alliance faction, if I knew what happened to them. I said, no, what happened? Said, well, there was an incident where they saw she was driving home, and they saw emergency vehicles or some sort of vehicles parked outside, and when they slowed down and checked, apparently, and you see, I don't like to comment on things that I have no details of because I called him and didn't get him, but apparently a gas bomb or a gas bottle was set off and exploded in the vehicle. A handgun was left in the vehicle. So I would not want to further comment on it because I actually have no information and no details. If the police have kept it silent, they may have their reason why. I saw, just before coming here, I saw in a newspaper in one of the offices photos of vehicles on fire or something like that in South Ward. I didn't recognize the vehicles. It looks like more than one vehicle. So how massive the fire had been, I do not know. I reached home. I left the office late last night. And by the time I got home, there was no smoke. I haven't seen vehicles. I haven't noticed vehicles then. Actually, I drove the other way around. But if it is linked to the election campaign, if it is targeting a candidate or a member of parliament, I think St. Martin is heading in the wrong direction. This is something totally new to the politics of St. Martin, and it would be sad if that's the direction in which some are choosing to go. But again, I'm not somebody who likes to sensationalize things. I think an investigation needs to be carried out as to what exactly has happened, rather than the Prime Minister in this case jumping to conclusions and accusing anyone of anything while I absolutely not have any facts on the matter.
Thank you, Prime Minister, very much for the answers. For now, I'll take you back in the second round.
Thank you very much for your questions, Bibi. Andrew Dick, Daily Herald, you have the floor. Good morning.
Yes, good morning to Prime Minister and Minister of Finance. Concerning the Minister of TIAT saying that she's not here again, the Regina Labega, no, the contract is already finished. Any idea where the Council of Ministers will take the airport now, the airport management, so on?
Any idea where the Council of Ministers will take the airport?
Yes, as shareholder, unless the Council of Ministers is not a shareholder of the airport.
You have to formulate your question,
Okay.
then I can provide an answer.
All
You're
right.
asking me, now that Regina LaBega's contract has expired at the airport, where the Council of Ministers is taking the airport.
Well, as far as management is concerned, I mean, have you created an opinion yet on?
There is a board at the airport. The board would be responsible for the process to select a managing director and submit such proposals to government. There is presently an interim director in place, and the Council of Ministers is busy with the process of appointing new members to the board, seeing that several members, their time have expired on one of the boards. That's as far as it is right now.
Okay. On GB, you said that, they have a press conference at 11:30 today, but seeing the frustration of persons with the number of outages, did you get to meet with?
As I said before, I think it is important, it is best to leave any statements about GBA, what the causes are, what they intend to do, how long they envision this would take or not take. I think this is a discussion, particularly because they're having the press briefing in the next less than an hour. I think that's the appropriate channel to address these issues with.